Hello, jeweler, and welcome to a roadmap for financial freedom. The term financial freedom is tossed around today as this all-encompassing goal that each individual should strive for. Become financially free or become independently wealthy. Sometimes people say that. The guide to financial freedom. If you just go looking on the internet, you can find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles on the subject of financial freedom. I mean, there are tons of books. Go to any bookstore, any self-help section, and there's going to be a ton of stuff that talks about financial freedom, right? But many of the ones that I found were lacking in a basic, succinct framework that I could actually follow with certainty to reach this elusive yet super duper enticing goal that everyone seems to think is the epitome of life. So in this video, you're going to learn what financial freedom means, and we'll establish a paradigm for understanding how to achieve it, and we'll help you contextualize this for your own life and explain how the system that we help you build here in JMP can be used to achieve financial freedom, with examples of two models that are proven methods for living in financial freedom for the long term. And just to give away the ending of the video, every successful person eventually becomes a capital manager. I'll get into what that means in a bit. Now, let it be said first and foremost that I'm not a financial advisor. I have no degree whatsoever in financial advisory. All that I have is an insatiable desire and curiosity to learn everything I can and everything necessary to hit my own personal goals and those that I help. But for years, I would say, I'm striving for financial freedom. Like, you would hear me say that. I want financial freedom, right? While having absolutely no idea what in the world that meant, or if there was actually a model that I could follow or that I could replicate with near 100% success. Now, once I came across a very simple formula, which I'll go through with you in this training, I was able to think with perfect clarity about what my goals financially would be and exactly how long it would take me to hit them, as well as what strategies I would use to hit them too. So what is financial freedom? Now, you might have your own definition, or you may have read multiple books on the subject, but the one that I like the most that we're going to use in this video is the ability to do what you want, when you want. So let's just reverse engineer what you would need in your life to make that happen. You need all of your bills covered, all of your living expenses covered, and whatever additional income you decide that you need in order to live comfortably. So let's say that you decide that it'll cost you about $50,000 a year, $50K a year in income to be totally happy and satisfied with where you are. In that case, you would have achieved financial freedom once you're making $50K a year. But the catch is that you're still having to work in order to make that $50K, then you're not technically free. You're still responsible for making that $50K a year by your own hard work. Financial freedom only comes into play and only really makes sense when you effectively divorce your income from your time. Now, this is where the idea of passive income comes into play. Passive income, like financial freedom, is this super hot topic that seems to make up half of all of YouTube videos, but most people use this term improperly. The term passive income can be really misleading because it gives the impression that no work has needed to go into something, yet you make money off of it, right? While most models for doing this, and the ones that you learn about when you read articles or you watch videos, they're not truly passive. For example, owning an online e-commerce jewelry store that has drop shipping built in could theoretically be thought of as passive income, but that would be incorrect. You still are responsible for managing the business, for the operations of the business, for taking care of the orders, for hiring or firing employees, for being in charge of all the marketing efforts, and at the end of the day, you'll likely still have to be putting in some time to make your money, even if you have other people doing most of the work for you, even if it's highly leveraged time that you're putting in. This is why I find it helpful to think of income in two different ways. Money that you work to make and money that your money works to make on your behalf. So money that you work to make is what we're going to call, and what we call, vertical income. Money that your money makes on your behalf is called horizontal income. So money that you make by your own work is called vertical income because if you look at a timeline of life, it spikes in one place, but it doesn't account for your life over a very long period of time. Now, money that your money makes for you is called horizontal income. And this is because you can describe it in terms such as per month or per year or per quarter. Now, this is income that you receive on a regular basis, which does not require any more work and will not stop coming to you short of a major world disaster, an alien invasion, a comet hitting the Earth, a robot apocalypse, and in any of those cases, none of your money is going to matter much anyway, so, this training won't make any sense anymore anyway. But the easiest way to distinguish between vertical income and horizontal income is to ask yourself, if I went into a coma for 10 years, would I still be receiving the same amount of money I am today when I awoke, or would my income have dried up? Now, if your income will continue to come in regularly, even when you have no ability to control anything, then that is horizontal income. If, however, when you stop working or close to when you stop working, your income will dry up, then what you have coming to you is actually called vertical income. So I want you to ask yourself, if I went into a coma and I woke up just 5 years from now, would I have a massive amount of cash waiting for me, or would I not be as fortunate? This gets a little bit complicated because some businesses have extremely highly leveraged vertical income. For example, if you only need to make one sale and that one sale makes you $100,000, then you have highly leveraged vertical income. This is when you take that $100,000 and you divide it by the amount of time that it took for you to make that $100,000. If it only takes you 5 hours, then your hourly rate is effectively $20,000 an hour. It's a pretty good hourly rate, but still, if you stopped working, your money would eventually stop coming to you. So the word to remember here in terms of vertical income, not horizontal, is leverage. The more you drive down the amount of time it takes to make a large sum of money, the more leveraged your vertical income will be. And I know this is going to be a lot of technical language, but stick with me. To be clear, your goal is to have all of your income or everything that you need to live as horizontal income. This means that all of your necessary income, whatever that may be, coming to you without you working anymore for it. This program, Jewelry Marketer Pro, JMP, this program's job is to teach you to have a highly leveraged vertical income system, to drive down the amount of time it takes to make a large sum of money so you can then purchase assets which will pay you regardless of if you work or not. At the point where your assets pay you enough, you will have achieved financial freedom. So how do we move from having vertical income, money that we work for, to horizontal income, money that our purchased assets make for us? So maybe you've heard the phrase, make your money work for you, and you've wondered what exactly that means. I did. When I first heard that, I thought, wow, that sounds really cool. I have no idea what that means. Well, in this video, we'll help you understand the difference between working for your money and having your money work for you, because that truly is the key to financial freedom. To make it really brief though, the main difference is that instead of you putting in hours of your time for income, your vertical income, has actually been used to purchase assets, and those assets pay you money back in return. It's just what those assets are made for. We'll clear up any confusion as this video goes on and also provide you with different ways that people do this and your own guide for doing this yourself. And it's an amazing guide that really should wake you up to where you're trying to get to and how to get there. So back to the question, how do I transition from vertical income to horizontal income? So I want to introduce you to the concept that you might be familiar with, but it's always good to revisit even if you are familiar with this. And if it's new, then congratulations, this should really help you out. So this is called the cash flow quadrant. On it, you can see that there's an E, an S, a B, and an I. So everyone who has an income falls into one of these quadrants in some way. And if you desire financial freedom, your goal will be to go from the left side of the quadrant to the right side of the quadrant. And this means that you will eventually go from the E to S to B to I if your goal is to be financially free. So let's go through what these mean. So E stands for employee. So in this category, the amount of money, the amount of active work that you do determines how much income you make. Very straightforward. So if you're currently working for a jewelry store, or you've not yet made the jump to stop working for someone else, or even if you work for a company that allows you to work as much as you want to make as much money as you can, like Uber or Grubhub or any of the other multi-level marketing companies who ultimately have control over how much money you make, that is employee. You're employed by someone else. They determine how much money you make. And how much money you make is determined by how much active work you put in. Then we have S. So S stands for self-employed. Now this is where a lot of jewelers are at. A lot of people who come into this program are at S. So this is when you own your own LLC, or either you sell your jewelry or you are contracted out by other jewelry stores to do work for them. So in that case, while you hopefully are making more money than a typical employee would be made, your pay is still determined by the amount of time that you put in. Now, if you play your cards right, you can have highly leveraged income from this category, S. Next, we have B. Now, B stands for business owner. Now, this is where you have a business, but instead of doing the work in the business, where you're actually working in your business, you hire out other employees that do that work for you. And the amount of money that you make isn't determined by how much time you put in, but the efficiency of your system that you're building. And in this case, your income does not completely depend on your active work, but rather on your management of your employees. And anyone who runs a business with employees will tell you that it most definitely is not passive income. But this is where your income is getting less and less tethered to the amount of time that you spend working in the business itself. And then the very last quadrant is I. Now, I stands for investor. Investing is when you take your earned income, right, your vertical income, and you purchase assets with that income, and they pay you back in return. So most commonly, when people think of investing, they think of stocks, bonds, options, index funds, and mutual funds when they think of investing in the category of investing. But investing can happen in any case where you purchase an asset which pays you back money on your investment. This means that the more money that you invest, the more money you make back on that investment or from that investment class. So the first three quadrants describe vertical income, right? Now, while you can have highly leveraged income and only put in a little bit of time for a lot of money in some rare cases, it still is vertical income so long as your time determines how much money you make versus how much money you've invested properly. Now, remember what I said back in the beginning when I told you what the end of the video would be about. Every successful person eventually becomes a capital manager. The capital that you manage is your own money. And if you play your cards right, you can buy enough assets to set yourself free from vertical income for the rest of your life. At that point, you are categorically financially free. You have enough horizontal income to survive and more. Now notice I didn't say you're financially free once you have a certain amount of money put away into savings, but rather you're financially free once you have purchased enough assets that provide you enough horizontal income to survive and more. Now, this isn't to say that savings accounts are a bad idea. You might hear that sometimes, inflation, blah, blah, blah. Savings provide peace of mind. Having a rainy day fund equal to 6 times your current monthly expenses is a great place to start. But that's not the goal of financial freedom, nor is that the definition of financial freedom. That is simply for emergencies. So now that we understand the big picture, that we want our horizontal income to cover everything that we need to live, how do we get there? And how do I know how much money I need to make so I can invest it, right? And what will my horizontal income be? Like, how much am I going to be making on a yearly basis once I've achieved financial freedom? Don't worry, we're going to make all this crystal clear by the end of this video. I'm just introducing you to these concepts so that you can have the building blocks to put everything together at the end for your own life. So, in order to be financially free, let's reverse engineer the process all the way from the beginning, okay? If I asked you to tell me what your current net worth is, could you? So, if you were to add up all of your assets that you currently own, all your debts, all the money in all of your bank accounts, all of your investment accounts, the value of your business, if you were able to sell it, could you give me an accurate picture of how much you are worth? What is your net worth? So the process of figuring out your net worth for the very first time can be a bit time consuming, but knowing your net worth allows you to have an accurate depiction of your current status, right? Your current situation on your way to financial freedom. So that is the first place that we start. So we know what our net worth is, we know where we stand, we know how much money we have in each of the categories. Now, once we've established that, we know our net worth, let's now talk about how much money you feel you need to make in order to live every single year. So what is the number that you want to be passively making on a yearly basis in order to be satisfied? Now, when I first got started, I thought there was a secret number, right? But this really is different for each person. You know, how much is it for you? How much are you going to need? It's going to be different depending on where you live and who you are and what your needs are. Now, I'll tell you the average number that most people shoot for, just so that you can have a goal in mind in case you haven't yet created one. So the average number that most people feel is adequate on a yearly basis is $80,000. If they could have $80,000 a year passively, they would be satisfied and able to live however they want to. Is that the same for you? Do you need less? Do you need more? What is your number? This is going to be a huge determining factor in your quest towards financial freedom. So once you have this number, we can move forward. So I encourage you to pause this video and sit with yourself and be completely honest and take a little bit of time about what will it take for you to say, I've arrived, this is the amount that I need. And I don't want to influence you whatsoever. So take a second and pause the video and choose your number. Okay, do you have your number? Have you chosen the amount of money that you want to have as horizontal income on a yearly basis to make you satisfied? I'm assuming that you have because you've continued to watch the video, so let's talk about how to make that happen. So how do we actually get that number as horizontal income, right? So remember when I said I heard a formula for financial freedom, and from that point, I was totally clear on exactly what I needed to do to get financial freedom for myself. Well, we're going to talk about a very famous study and the formula that has helped me and many others to create a roadmap for financial freedom. You don't have to read very far in the retirement literature to have come across the 4% rule. So this piece of common retirement advice actually seems to work well when put under the scrutiny of like a microscope, though it's really little understood and can be misused, which is why we're going to use it as a guide and not a hard, fast rule, the 4% rule. So back in 1998, 3 professors from Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, sat down and ran a bunch of numbers. So these professors, these super smart guys, were wondering what would happen at various withdrawal rates, so taking money out of your investment account, what would happen at various withdrawal rates to various portfolios, investment portfolios, each with a different mix of stocks and bonds over a 30-year period, depending on what year the withdrawals were started. So they studied withdrawals that stayed the same for 30 years, as well as when you adjusted for inflation each year and took out a little more as the years went on to make up for inflation changes. Then they updated it in 2009. So this means they took a look at different investment portfolios. So money that you invested, so in portfolios that you had invested money into, assets that you had bought, and they took out certain percentages of money from those portfolios every single year while leaving the rest of the investment alone in order to find out how long it would take before your money would run out. So since they were working with percentages and not exact dollar amounts, Their results were true for both very, very large investment portfolios and very, very small investment portfolios. So the number itself doesn't matter. But they were trying to answer the question, how long can I survive on my investment account? So even though they reported on many, many different options of withdrawal rates, the financial media seized on just one of these models, the 4% withdrawal rate, 50-50 stock bond portfolio adjusted for inflation. So that means every single year they took out more money to keep up with inflation. So why was this particular withdrawal rate, taking out 4% of your investments per year to live on, so revolutionary? It turns out 96% of the time at the end of 30 years, such a portfolio remained intact. So to put that another way, there was just a 4% chance of this strategy failing you and leaving you destitute in your old age. In fact, it failed in only 2 of the 55 starting years that they measured, 1965 and 1966. Other than those 2 years, not only did it work, many times the remaining money in the portfolio had grown to incredible and spectacular levels. So think about that for just a second. What that last thing that I just said means is that in most cases, the people who owned these portfolios could have taken out 5, 6, or 7% every single year and have done just fine. And in fact, if you did give up the inflationary increases and took just 7% straight across every single year, you would be totally fine 85% of the time. Most of the time, taking only 4% meant at the end of your days, you left huge, huge accounts of money on the table for your heirs. That's super good news if you don't want to spend all your money before you pass and you want to leave a legacy of money behind for your family. Also, great news if you anticipate living on your portfolio, being financially free, for more than 30 years. So to be specific with numbers, the numbers that they used, with a starting portfolio of just $1 million in their portfolio, in some cases, that number had not only provided for the owner for 30 years and given them 30 years to live off of, but that number had grown to incredible amounts. So without adjusting for inflation each year, the numbers looked like this. If you'd invested 100% in stocks after 30 years of taking out 4%, you're left with $15,610,000. 75% stocks, 25% bonds. After 30 years of taking out 4%, you're left with $10,743,000. 50% stocks, 50% bonds. After 30 years of taking out 4%, you're left with $7,100,000. If you had taken out just a bit more each year to adjust for inflation, your numbers would look like this. 100% stocks after 30 years of taking out 4%, you're left with $10,075,000. 75% stocks, 25% bonds. After 30 years of taking out 4%, you're left with $5,968,000. 50% stocks, 50% bonds. After 30 years of taking out 4%, you were left with $2,971,000. That means not only could you have been completely taken care of, but you also have a lot more money left over after 30 years, sometimes more than $10 million. Now, this 4% rule is a guideline, and it sits right at about a 96% success rate, depending on when you decide or start to withdraw your money from your investments. If you want even more assurance than 96% that you'll be able to survive and thrive, then taking out just 3% or less of your invested assets per year is about as close as you could possibly get to making sure that you never, ever, ever run out of money. Now, all of this money is horizontal income, meaning that once you've invested it, you've bought the assets, the work is done, and the value continues to grow, and your job is simply taking out your portion and doing small reallocations if and when necessary for your personal risk tolerance. So remember when I had you choose the amount of money that you would need to have in order to be satisfied every single year. And I told you most people choose around $80,000. If you follow the logic of the 4% rule, all you need to do to figure out how much money you're going to need to make in vertical income in order to invest, in order to achieve financial freedom for yourself, is take your number, multiply it by 25. Your yearly number, how much you need, that you're going to be withdrawing every single year from your investments. And since you're only taking 4% of your money, that means that your yearly number equals 4% of your total amount invested. So if you wanted $80,000 in passive horizontal income each year, you would have needed to invest $2 million. This is because 4% of $2 million is 80,000, and following the literature, this assures that you will most likely, in 96% of the cases, have much more than $2 million at the end of 30 years. Now let's say that your number is smaller than 80K. That's totally fine. Simply take your number and multiply it by 25. That's how much money you need to make in order to have financial freedom. That's how much money you need to have invested in assets in order to achieve financial freedom. If you need $120,000 per year in passive income, then you will need to make and invest $3 million. If you want $400,000 per year in passive horizontal income, then you will need to make and invest $10 million. If you want $40,000 per year, then you will need to make and invest $1 million. That number is your goal to hit for true financial freedom based off of actual passive horizontal income. So what is your number? How much do you need to make and invest for you to have achieved financial freedom? And why is this such an important number to know from the outset? Because oftentimes I hear many people say, if I just made $10,000 a month, I'm on the phone with people all the time, and a lot of times I hear people say, if I just made $10,000 a month in income, then I'd be happy. Or if I could just be a six-figure jeweler, then I'd be happy. We'll just stick with the average of 80,000 for the rest of this training, so that we have a number that we can work with, so we can actually be concrete and specific with the numbers and our goals. But if your goal is to have $80,000, the average, in passive income once you're financially free to cover all of your life expenses, then you need to make and invest $2 million. If your sights are stopped at, I want to make $10,000 a month, then how long is it going to take you to get there? Even if you took literally no money out, and this was after all of your expenses were completely paid, and it was pure savings that you could just invest, it would still take you 200 months, or 16 years and 8 months, before you're done saving that much money per month for you to have hit financial freedom. If you never invest your money that whole time, then it'll take you 16 years. While 16 years and 8 months is certainly still better than most 401k plans, which tout that if you start at age 22 and over time invest more than $860,000, then by the time you're 65, if everything has gone perfectly according to plan, you can have more than $6 million. Those plans rely on paying the one factor that really matters most to every single person: time. Time is the most valuable asset that any of us have. In fact, recently, when I was back in Seattle, I was out to dinner with a young guy that I had met at church who did wealth management. I love learning from people like him, so we got together and I had dinner with him and I just picked his brain. And it turns out that he works for a company that does wealth management for just one family. Now, that was interesting, so I asked more and more, and he got more and more secret with his answers, but eventually stated, "My company exists to do wealth management for just one client, and we are heavily funded by the Gates Foundation," which answered my question as to who exactly this guy's company's client was. So it turns out that one of his unique jobs, on top of his many other tasks, was actually to edit photos. So I thought that was really random, so I asked him why he was editing photos. And it just so happens that the one thing that the Gates family cherishes and cares about more than anything in the entire world is documenting everything in photos. He explained, when you have all the money in the world, the only thing that you can't buy is time and memories. And that's the one thing that they want more than anything else. The photos help them to try and remember and capture time as it rapidly slips away. So take the advice of one of the richest people in the world for many, many years. Time is worth a lot more than money. Also, maybe you've heard this list before, but it's worth repeating for the sake of bringing this to reality and making this not just a training, I'm making this real and about your life. There's an Australian nurse who wrote down the most common things that people regret on their deathbeds, and it's a good reminder of what really matters the most in life. I'll say what they regretted and then her short commentary on each factor or each thing that they regretted. One is, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others expected of me. And she said, this was the most common regret of all. When people realize that their life is almost over and look back clearly on it, it's easy to see how many dreams have gone unfulfilled. Most people had not honored even half of their dreams and had to die knowing that it was due to choices that they had made or not made. Health brings a freedom that very few people realize until they no longer have it. Number 2 is, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. She said, this came from every male patient that I nursed. They missed their children's youth, their partner's companionship. Women also spoke of this regret too, but as most were from an older generation, many of the female patients hadn't been breadwinners. All of the men that I nursed deeply regretted spending so much of their lives on the treadmill of a work existence. 3 is, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Many people suppressed their feelings, she said. Many people suppress their feelings in order to keep peace with others. As a result, they settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. Many developed illnesses relating to the bitterness and resentment that they carried as a result. Number 4 is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. She said, often they would not truly realize the full benefits of old friends until their dying weeks, and it was not always possible to track them down. Many had become so caught up in their own lives that they had let golden friendships slip by over the years. There were many deep regrets about not giving friendships the time and effort that they deserved. Everyone misses their friends when they're dying. 5 is, I wish that I had let myself be happier. This, she said, is a surprisingly common one. Many did not realize until the end that happiness is a choice. They had stayed stuck in old patterns and habits. The so-called comfort of familiarity overflowed into their emotions as well as their physical lives. Fear of change had them pretending to others and to themselves that they were content when deep within they longed to laugh properly and have silliness in their life again. Now, why am I bringing up deathbed regrets and something so dark when we're talking about something as sterile as finances? Your finances and what they can do for you will in a very large way determine how you're allowed to spend your time here on earth. If you plan properly, you can have the time that you want to invest in your family and friends. You can accomplish your dreams and you can take hold of the opportunities that God presents you. But if you don't plan, and you don't plan properly, or you fall for society's version of financial peace, which is working full-time at a job for 40 or 50 years straight with limited vacation days and saving whatever little you can for more than 40 years, when you finally can enjoy your retirement, then you're going to likely end up wishing that you'd done something different like most people do. Also, just to let you know, on average, at the age of 65, when people are supposed to be hitting that $6.4 million mark in their investments, that's not what's normally happening. In fact, the average amount of money that most people have in their 401ks at 65 isn't $6.5 million. It's actually closer to $800,000. And as we know, that's not enough to live financially free for most people. So one time a woman came up to the car of the entrepreneur and investor, Gary Vee, and she asked him, give me 3 words for inspiration for any day that I'm feeling down. And he immediately replied,
Gary Vee! 3 words to give me inspiration for any day I'm feeling down.
3 words.
3 words.
You're gonna die.
You're gonna die. In case you've forgotten and you've gotten lost at your jewelry bench or just been watching Netflix way too much or you've been on social media for too much time, let me remind you that you're gonna die and that your time is finite. Use it wisely and see every single day as a gift and plan properly so that your future self is proud of you. So let's talk about how we're going to fast track your way to financial freedom if you're willing to put the work in. The three principles that we're going to use, or the three steps that we're going to use for financial freedom are: number one, you need a cash engine. Number two, you need to invest whatever surplus money you can. And then step three, live off of 4% or less of your assets invested. So first, let's talk about the cash engine. So cash engine, your cash engine is whatever form of vertical income that you have, which will fuel your investments. If you work a 9-to-5 job, your cash engine is your job. But like we said earlier, the best place to be if you want to, in general, if you really, really want to hit your goals, if you want to make as much money as possible and as quickly as possible, is to go from being an employee to being either self-employed or to being a business owner with employees underneath you. Now, once you have a solid amount of cash flow coming in, then you can reduce your living expenses and take whatever surplus cash you have and invest it. We'll get into specific numbers in a little more detail later, but this is the basic idea. You have a cash engine, which is a business system over which you have total control. This gives you the maximum earning potential in the shortest time frame possible. Then you need to invest your surplus money into an asset class of your choosing. Now we're going to get into two options in a bit, but that is step two. Then you get to live off of 4% or less of your assets invested once they've been invested. So let's contextualize this for you as a jeweler going through JMP right now, and specifically take a look at the business model which you're taught in this program, which is high-end jewelry and appointment booking. So remember back when we talked about horizontal versus vertical income, and we said that sometimes you can have vertical income which is highly leveraged, right? Meaning you can have income that you do actively work for, but the number of hours is drastically reduced in comparison to the amount of money that you can make. Do you remember when we talked about horizontal versus vertical, and leveraged vertical income is when you don't work a lot but you make a lot of money? The point of JMP is to teach you to run a system with highly leveraged vertical income. Your cash engine, in the eyes of Jewelry Marketer Pro, is your jewelry business, specifically your high-end jewelry business. You make money, first and foremost, by fulfilling orders. Everything besides that can be systematized. Our goal in teaching you how to run a design appointment booking business for high-end jewelry is to allow you to focus on or even outsource your jewelry manufacturing needs so that you only have to focus on activities with very, very high earning potential. To be exact, you should have this system set up, and depending on your workflow, or if you decide to outsource any work or hire on employees, you can take in and fulfill multiple high-end jewelry orders every single day as a small business. If each of those has an average order value, each of those orders has an average order value of $3,500, and you get to the point where you're taking in just one per day, like my family store currently is, then you will have what is considered a highly leveraged vertical income. If your goal is to have $80,000, $80K in horizontal income, then you need to sell 571 pieces of jewelry at $3,500 a piece to hit financial freedom. Or if that's not your profit, but rather your revenue, and your profit is closer to $2,000 for your cash, then once you've sold 1,000 pieces with $2,000 in profit per piece, you've made enough money to be considered financially free if you've invested that in assets. At a rate of one piece per day, and you still get to take 3 or 4 days off if you like, and just group your appointments into a few days a week if you want to, you can have enough money to be comfortably financially free in under 2.5 years. If you've also been investing your surplus and haven't been simply keeping the money in a savings account, then you could arrive even sooner because of appreciation and interest on your money that you've invested. Imagine if instead of waiting for 40 years for financial freedom, you could use one simple system to sell a finite amount of pieces and you'll hit financial freedom in 2.5 years, 2.5 years. Now, I have to say, there is zero guarantee whatsoever that this is going to happen for you. There are so many factors that come into play when you run a business, and you're going to need to also feed yourself and your family throughout this time as well. But this is to give you a way of seeing the math behind financial freedom. So let's get specific about your business. What is your average order profit for your pieces? So when you take the amount of money that you need to have invested, right? So you've taken the amount that you need per year, multiplied it by 25, and then you get your big number, what you need to have invested. Then you divide that by your average order profit. What number are you left with? If you have to save $2 million, so let's say you want $80K a year, you need $2 million, and you have an average order profit of $2,000 per sale, then 1,000 sales will get you to financial freedom. However fast you can get those sales doesn't matter. That's your number. These concepts are meant to take the large, unattainable goal of financial freedom and break it down into bite-sized pieces, so you know exactly what your next step today should be. So once you've got your big number, you know how much you need to have invested in assets, and you have your average order profit, you can do simple division to understand a ballpark of how many sales will need to be made to hit financial freedom for yourself. With the JMP model that we're teaching you, we focus on high ticket sales because there are less moving parts and we have a highly leveraged vertical income versus low ticket jewelry where we, around that $100 to $500 range where we have many, many, many more orders to fulfill just to make the same amount of income and have the same amount of cash coming in. Also, with you in charge and not hiring out a marketing agency, and when you see how simple the system is, this model is very, very, very low cost to run. The highest costs will come from your materials and employees. Once you start to automate client acquisition, and you're able to get $2,000 for every $100 to $500 that you spend on ads, you'll quickly be able to scale your business to get more appointments. Now, once you have your money and you're ready to start investing, so you've got your $2 million now, it's 2.5 years has gone by, and you have your $2 million, great. Where should the money go? How do you invest your money properly? Now, this is a topic that has been talked about by many, 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 many people who are much, much smarter than the guy who's currently talking to you right now. And so I highly advise you and recommend that you do a ton of your own research into how to do this properly. So I'm going to recommend a few books at the end of this video, but the two main ways that we'll talk about are investing in the stock market and investing in real estate. And keep in mind, you might know much, much, much more about this than I do, and you may also disagree with me. That's totally fine. My expertise is in high-end jewelry marketing and financial freedom for me in my own life, so we can have differences here. But just to give you an overview, number one way, one asset class you can invest in is the stock market. When you buy a stock, you own a piece of a company. Companies, just like you, have the incentive to make as much money as possible. Therefore, for the most part, the most successful companies in the United States, when they're all bunched together, have seen very, very good growth in their net worth over the years. Now, where this can get tricky is when you try to beat the stock market and get really clever with your investments by choosing just one stock or one company to invest in. Now, while this is 100% possible because it's happened many, many times, and I'm personally friends with a few individuals who do this very well, it's not something that I recommend that you practice, and because you have a different cash engine or a different way of making your vertical income, which is your jewelry business, you don't need to learn that either. You don't need to learn how to do fancy investing. So the most straightforward advice I can give you is to invest 70% of your assets in VTSAX, which is a low-cost stock market index fund, and 25% of your assets in VBTLX, which is a low-cost bond market index fund. Historically speaking, when you do this and you withdraw 4% of your money on a yearly basis, you will be able to not only survive, but have a ton of money left over in the end. Both of those funds, by the way, are managed by Vanguard, and so they're very, very low cost index funds. The ways you make money in the stock market are by your stock or bond appreciating, so it's worth more money, or a company paying you dividends. In the end, your ownership in the company will be worth more, and if a company does fail, then it's going to be replaced by another company in the index fund, so that the quality and the performance is always going to be trending upward no matter what. Now, when it's time to withdraw your money, how do you withdraw money from those two funds, right? You simply go into your investment accounts on your computer and you just transfer the money from your investment account into your bank account. Plain and simple. So you need $80,000. It's January. Sweet. Transfer $80,000. You're good. I would suggest doing it in smaller portions to keep up the interest, but it doesn't matter. For more information on that, I would definitely recommend The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. Now, the second method that I want to go over, mostly because I like it so much and I'm invested in it myself, is real estate. Real estate is when you buy a physical property and that becomes your asset, the asset class in which you invest. While there are many different ways that you can invest in real estate, from flipping houses to buying and selling foreclosures to developing land, to the main one that I want to focus on is rental properties. So this is when you own a property and people pay you rent. Plain and simple. Now, they pay you rent in order to live there, or they pay you rent in order to use it for a retail store. Maybe you're currently paying rent to a landlord. They are real estate investors. I'll get to the reason that I prefer real estate over stocks in just a second, but there are 4 ways that you make money with real estate investing. When you buy a property, you make money on appreciation, debt paydown, cash flow, and tax write-offs. So, like we talked about with stocks and bonds, appreciation is when the value of your asset goes up over time. So this means that you can now sell the property that you bought for more money than you originally agreed to pay for it. So imagine that you buy a house for $500,000 and now it's worth $600,000. It just appreciated by $100,000 and you made that much money simply by owning the property. If you go and sell that property now, you just made $100,000. The next way that you can make money with real estate is debt paydown. When you buy a house and you're planning to use it for rental income, the best way to buy the house is using other people's money. This means that instead of you paying for the mortgage on the house or the condo or the apartment complex, the people who live there or use the place are paying your mortgage for you. So because you're not paying your mortgage, every penny that they give you goes into your own equity in the property simply because you're the person whose name is on the title. So over time, if you have a 15 or 30-year mortgage, you end up owning more and more and more and more of that property, but you don't actually end up being the person that pays for it. Your renters do through their rent. The third way is cash flow. So if someone is renting from you and the amount of money that they pay you in rent exceeds the amount of money that you have to pay on a monthly basis for mortgage to your lender and all other expenses, that extra money that you have on top is called cash flow. And it's a new income stream for you. So once the building is paid off, all the money that comes in at that point, minus utilities and insurance, is now just monthly horizontal income for you. Pretty cool. The fourth way is tax write-offs. Now, this isn't so much a way to make money with real estate as a way to shield your money from being taken during tax season. So because so many jobs, so many jobs are created in the real estate market, the government wants people to buy properties and gives incentives to do so in the form of many tax write-offs. So this effectively allows you to seriously decrease, if not 100% eliminate what you pay in taxes for a given year or set of years, allowing you to keep that money and reinvest it. Now, both the stock market and real estate are proven asset classes, among many others, which can be really good for investments. But here is why I personally prefer and why I'm doing real estate investing. Other people's money. Let's imagine that you buy a $1 million rental property for 5% down. So these are the numbers kind of that we're working with here in Hawaii, okay? So let's imagine that you buy a $1 million rental property for 5% down. You just paid $50,000, but you're the owner of a $1 million property. Now let's imagine that over 30 years, other people are paying you rent and paying off your mortgage on your behalf. And your rent has slowly increased over the years while your mortgage payments have stayed the same. Now, 30 years later, your house is totally paid off. You only invested $50,000, but all the while, you've been making a steady monthly income. And now, you have and you own a $1 million asset, which is likely appreciated to $1.5 or $2 million in that time period. That means that with just that one purchase, you've just achieved financial freedom, and you've even been getting paid along the way while others are paying off your mortgage through their rents on your property. This also means that if you can continue to do this, just use this same model again and again with the same money down where you put 5% down, you can literally own $100 million in property, even though you've only had to make and invest $5 million in property. You've taken $5 million and you've invested in multifamily or rental properties and you've mortgaged them all. But now other people, the people that are using those properties, are paying off those mortgages for you. Over time, that $100 million slowly becomes more and more yours. And by the power of appreciation, it's now looking a lot more like $150 million. You just successfully, with simple math, turned $5 million into $150 million. And the whole time, the government has been granting you tons of tax write-offs for being such a good citizen. When it comes time to withdraw your real estate, it happens in the form of monthly cash flow from your tenants, selling your property for the full appreciated value, or taking out a line of credit against your property, which you can use however and whenever you want to, and then you can just slowly pay back as an extra mortgage. So in case you missed it, investing is a bit complicated, and there are much smarter people than me that teach you how to do this kind of stuff. So I highly suggest doing your own research on these topics because, like I said earlier, eventually all successful people become capital managers. You will manage your own capital, which you've invested into horizontal income producing assets. Now, I've attached a worksheet to help you understand how you're moving forward and to really make this crystal clear for you and your personal and professional goals. So what we're going to do now is turn over to that worksheet and get started on that. Now we are in the Life Compass template. So this is the worksheet that goes along with the financial freedom roadmap. This is really a really in-depth worksheet to work through, and it should take you a little bit of time to get through this because it just has a lot of information here. As you can tell, you don't just have this one single sheet here, but there are many sheets underneath here as well. And this is actually something that I got from a mentor of mine, who he got from other mentors of his, who was just kind of bundled together. What is in this particular worksheet here is the accumulation of, honestly, multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars of mentor. I get mentored just like you do, but multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars of mentoring kind of poured into this from successful people about how they structure their lives or think about their lives in order to hit their goals and actually reach the things that they want to, and how they take their lives, seriously enough that they make good on their promises to themselves. So I hope that this is powerful for you too. The first time that I went through this, it really was a wake-up call to me. And we're just going to go through this sheet by sheet so you understand what it is that you're filling in and how to go through this. And the last part that we're going to go through that I just created and added in here is the financial freedom tracker. But let's just go through this. So we're going to do, number one is create your own copy. So go File up top, and then you're going to hit Make a Copy, and then you're going to be able to actually edit your own. So first of all, put your name here and then your theme for the year. So your theme for the year could be something like renewal, it could be stability, it could be whatever it is, growth, scale, whatever it is that you want your theme for this year to be. Then we're going to go to horizontal net income and vertical net income. Now we've already talked about horizontal and vertical income. Horizontal is income you're not working for. Vertical is income that you are currently working for and putting hours into. So For 2021, what was your horizontal income, money that you didn't work for? And then what was your vertical net income? And then if it's white, you are going to edit those squares. And if it's any other color, really, then you're not going to edit those squares. So first things first, go through 2021. What was it that you did in 2021? Or if you happen to be watching this and it's no longer 2022, it's 2023, then you're just going to switch these numbers around for yourself. So what we're going to do is put in your numbers for 2021. What was your horizontal net income? Then what was your vertical net income? And then what were your personal expenses? So what was it that you ended up basically paying in order to live this last year? And it's really good to get a good example or a good grasp on this. You know, how much are you actually paying just for food and for your mortgage or your rent or for car payments or for insurance or anything like that? It's going to really help when we get into the financial freedom tracker at the end here. So you really, truly do understand how much work you need to do in order to hit your financial freedom goals. Then all of this stuff, your taxes and expenses, what money you have left to invest is all going to be calculated. And then how much money did you actually invest into horizontal income producing assets like we had talked about before? Awesome. And then we get into 2022. So with 2022, what are your goals going to be for this year, right? For as we're moving forward with where you already are and as you're just moving forward into this, what do you want your goals for this year to be? So what do you want your horizontal net income to be? If you're at zero right now, it could be something as small as I want to make, $2,000 in passive horizontal income this year. Awesome. So good. Whatever it's going to take to help you to get and to reach your goals, that's great. Now, the way we're going to actually get that horizontal net income, as we know, is by investing in assets. So you are going to need to invest in some assets to make that happen. So what is your goal? Then what is your goal for your vertical net income? And then what is your goal for your personal expenses and your personal taxes as well? And then how much money do you want to have invested as well? And then what's your net worth? Now, we had talked about net worth before, but we actually have over here a net worth calculator that we're going to go through. So you're going to put your name, and then you're going to put the year and the quarter. So if it's 2022 and it's the beginning of the year, then it is quarter number 1. Now, don't put anything down here into current net worth, but what we're going to do is actually go through piece by piece, and it's going to add everything up on its own to tell you what your net worth is. So assets are cash equivalent. So let's imagine that you have $10,000. What's easy? You have a savings account, and let's say that there's $10,000 in there. Now, I put $10,000 here, and it immediately went here to the bottom. So that means that my net worth up top has just grown by $10,000. Awesome. Now, what if I have a recourse mortgage? Or we're going to get into recourse and non-recourse mortgages in just a second. But a recourse mortgage is a mortgage on something. So any sort of basically debt that you're paying off in which they can come after you if you don't pay that debt off. That's the difference between a recourse and a non-recourse mortgage, just to be put very, very simply. A recourse mortgage, like imagine if you buy a house the traditional way, the way it would work is if you don't pay off your debts on that house, then they can not only come after your house, they can actually come after a lot more stuff. Whereas with a non-recourse mortgage, they can't touch you. They can only go after, they can just basically take the house back, but there's no more damage done to you. So let's look at this recourse mortgage. Let's say you have a car payment or something like that, right? So if you have a car payment, that would be a recourse mortgage or a recourse debt. And that would be, let's say it's, $250, what's it, Daisy? Car payment. Let's say it's $250 a year. Well, that wouldn't make any sense. It would be like per month. So let's say it's $3,000 a year. Here we go. So if that's the case, then we have $3,000 that we have against us that we need to pay off for this car. And we have $10,000, and then it's going to equal out $7,000 as our current net worth. Now you're going to just work through these retirement accounts and investment accounts, non-recourse mortgages that you might have. Most people don't have any non-recourse mortgages, just letting you know. Real estate assets, so anything that you own in real estate, revolving debts, so any credit card debts that you currently have,
physical assets. So for a lot of jewelers, it could be like actual gold that you've yet to melt down or anything like that. It could be gems that you have. It could be any tools that you have. You know, it could be your bench. It could be your any of your tools that you have that could be really, really expensive, right? Then let's imagine you have like a laser welder, right? So you put like laser welder. And then how much would that be worth? Now, when it comes to these physical assets, you could put down how much you paid for it. But the reality is that's not how much someone else would ever pay for it. They're going to be looking for a bargain. And normally, when it comes to needing to sell these things, it's going to have to be at a basement bargain price, because you're normally going to need the money immediately anyway. So don't ask yourself, how much did I pay for this? But rather, how much would I be definitely able to get if I needed to sell this thing in 2 days, right? So even if you paid like $20,000 for your laser welder, which I know a lot of laser welders are like that, and we've had one that's more than that. What if you needed to sell it in 2 days? I mean, immediately, because that's normally when the money actually matters. How much would that cost you? So if you know you could get a sale on that thing and definitely have it sold for $8,000, then let's put that number down, right? We don't want to be overinflating our view of how much our stuff is worth. Just because we paid a lot of money for it doesn't mean someone else is going to anymore. So $8,000. Whatever car do you have? If you have your car and you paid $25,000 or $50,000, great. But what would someone now pay for it at a bargain? So not even like a competitive price, but I mean a bargain. Use that as your gauge for how much your stuff should cost here, because you don't want an overinflated view of your net worth. Because when push comes to shove, this number really could matter, and it's good to know how much you really have. So go through your net worth calculator, put in everything that you have. And this could take a little bit of time to get through the very, very first time. Totally fine. And then what you're going to do is, once you're done with that, go back to the first sheet and put in your net worth, your recourse debt, non-recourse debt, your liquidity, so how much money you have on hand right now that you can actually use, and how many horizontal income lines do you have. So as we talked about before, you're buying assets, right? So we want assets that are going to pay us money on a regular basis. How many assets do you have? I have, 1, or I have 6. Whatever it is that you currently have, use that. And that is, what have you invested in? What line of income do you currently have coming in from horizontal income or horizontal assets, horizontal income producing assets? Then we go to genuine contribution. Now this is where you get to donations, right? So what financial contribution did you donate last year and this is in money. So how much money did you donate last year to any cause? And then how many hours did you contribute? Because giving isn't just something that you have to use money for. You can definitely use your time. I volunteer every single week at a youth group that happens here on Kauai. And there's like 60 or 70 kids that come, and I spend a couple hours every Wednesday just hanging out with these junior high kids and running this like program for them and teaching and whatever. So that could be hours contributed. What is it that you do? Do you do anything yet? Maybe you want to, so that's where your goal comes in. How much money are you contributing on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis to things that you care about that is really, really important to you? Because and anyone that you talk to who is really, really financially stable, almost anyone is going to be really passionate about something, and you're going to know what they care about based on where their cash goes, right? They say the 3 C's are your cash, your calendar, and your conversation. Those 3 things are going to tell you a lot about what someone cares about. So where's their cash going, and where's your cash going, and how are you contributing financially, or how are you contributing hours wise to that too? Then we have hours equivalent. So how much did you make? This is going to be calculated for you. But how much did you make on an hourly basis based off of your income? And then based on the hours that you contributed, how much money did you end up basically giving away versus your hours? So if you made $100,000 last year, and your hourly rate was like, I think it would be like $50 an hour or so for 100K. So if it was $50 an hour, then, and you made $100,000 this last year, then if you donated an hour a week, then you effectively donated whatever 50 times 52 is. So around 2,750, 2,700 or like $2,700 worth of your time. Then we're going to get into highlights. So what are your 2021 headlines? What are the 5 things that were just amazing last year? And definitely go through this. It's just really, really good to be grateful for things that you were able to do. So you're able to look back and just have a sense of gratitude over the things that happened this last year. And then what are the top 5 upcoming highs for this year? You know, for us, it's purchasing in just a couple days now, purchasing a rental property, our first rental property. So we're psyched about that. You know, it could be starting a family. It could be going on a trip somewhere that you want to go to. It could be making a certain number of sales that you want to have, hitting a certain number in your business. It could be doing something for a family member or for a friend that you've always wanted to do. It could be going somewhere you've always wanted to go. Anything. So what are those 5 upcoming highs? Then what are your top 5 bucket list items? Now, we're going to go ahead and we actually have a whole bucket list right here at the back. And this has, I think, 100. Yeah. So what I want you to do at some point is also go through this and just list off these bucket list items. And then as you go through them, check them off too. So I did this one, then you check it off. Awesome. So this is just really good. So you have a list of things that you can look forward to in life, because it's really easy to get stuck in the here and now. This is really going to help you to get your mind out of that and to look at things. And so you have a good idea of, you know, why am I working so hard right now? This is why. Why am I searching for financial freedom? This is why. These are the reasons. So let's go back to the very beginning. So what are your top 5 bucket list items? Then age-defying health. So what is your weight? What's your body fat percentage? What is your metabolic age? So age-defying health is, you know, your health is really going to play a gigantic role in how you feel. Like we even talked about in this video with the people who, they don't realize how good health is until you don't have it, right? So we want to make sure that we're taking care of our bodies physically too, not just socially, not just, you know, financially, which is what most of this course deals with, but we are holistic people. Like we have spiritual aspects to us, we have social aspects to us. So what's your weight? What's your body fat percentage? And what's your metabolic age? So your metabolic age is something, just type it in Google and you can find calculators to determine your metabolic age. But basically a metabolic age is, you could be 25 and yet you could have the metabolic age of like a 75-year-old, because you haven't taken as good of care of your body as you really should have. Or you could be like in your 60s, your 70s, but you have the metabolic age of someone in their 30s, right? And it's just because you've taken care of yourself. You've done a really good job of taking care of yourself. So that's how you figure out what your metabolic age is. Basically, you have the health level of like a person who averages a different age than you do most of the time. Now, what's your blood pressure? And then where are you? What number do you have on your life happiness index? Now, your life happiness index is another sheet that we have in here. So let's go to life happiness index. Now, this is the year, and you want to rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. Now, this is really, really good. And I think this is just a good thing to remember is don't sleepwalk through your life. If you can actually answer these questions, go through this and be really honest about where you're at. And this is for you too. You know, I go through this with my own wife. I go through this with friends of mine as well. And I give them this life compass template because I use it and it's so powerful as well. But you want to be honest with where you are. How are you with your diet and water? You know, and then you choose. I'm either at a 1 or I'm at a 7 or an 8 or a 3 or a 2. How is your eating? And be honest with yourself. How really is it in comparison to where it could be? How about exercise? Are you exercising every day? Are you exercising, 3 times a week? Do you not remember the last time that you exercised? Whatever it is, right? Your dollar productive activity. So how are you on just making sure that you're doing the things that are actually making you money or will be making you money? Your love for work. Do you love what you do? Or are you just absolutely ecstatic about it? How about your romance? How's that going for you? How are your romantic relationships? 1, 10? How about children, if that's a part of your life? Do you have kids, or are you in any way contributing to like the kids of others, or helping and bringing up the next generation of people by pouring into someone else's lives? How about parents or siblings? How are you in your relationship with them? How are you relating well with them or not really well? It could be at 2, and that's really going to affect your life happiness index in bringing a lot of things down. Then your friends. How is your time with your friends, and are you pouring enough effort into those things, and is it giving you back what you want out of your life too? And then horizontal income, we've talked a lot about that. Music and dance, hobbies, all of this stuff. So and then gratitude thermometer is one of the biggest ones. It's just, you do want to feel gratitude in life. It's one of the most powerful things that you could possibly feel to give you a sense of vitality in your life. Where are you in your life? How grateful are you for where you happen to be right now? So be honest about that. And then everything here just calculates for you. You also have your body fat percentage, your weight, your blood pressure. So this really is just taking a very holistic view of you as a person. Where are you at this point, and how are you doing? Are you on track, or are you off track from where you want to be? So that's our life happiness index. So let's go back to the very front here, and we're at 2022. We've gone through the age-defying health. Now let's just go through our goals, our personal goals. So you have 5. What I want you to do is actually try and write down as many as you can. At least write down 1 for every single one of these categories before moving on. Definitely write down 1 for at least 1 for every one of these. So health and nutrition, it could be, and when we're talking about goals, we want, SAM goals, SAM, which is specific, achievable, measurable goals, right? So health and nutrition would be, and this is just a common piece of advice. Don't give yourself a goal for like, I will do such and such every day, or I will do such and such every week, because those goals are just, statistically speaking, they fail. People cannot keep something like that every week, because not every week is the same. Not every day is the same. So don't say, I'm going to go to the gym at least 3 times a week or something like that. That's not going to be super helpful. And maybe you've heard that before or not, but it's just a well-known thing. It's not going to really help you if you just say, I'm going to do such and such every week. Instead, give yourself a number you can shoot for. So quantify it, right? So say, I'm going to go, I will work out, this year, it could be, I will work out 100 times, right? Then it doesn't matter when you do this in the year. I will do yoga for 100 hours, right? Now you have 100 hours that you have basically to spend on yoga this upcoming year, okay? So now you're going to be able to, you can break that down into like a weekly basis if you want to, and say like basically 2 hours a week. Or you could bunch up like 8 or 10 hours in the same week because you just happen to have that much time, right? Now that you've done that, you can just bang this out as quickly as you want to. You can get it all done in one sprint if you need to. And when you do things this way, where you quantify it with an actual number of hours or of time that you've spent, then it makes it so that you are not killing yourself for saying, oh man, I messed up this last week and now I'm totally off track. And I can, if you say you're going to do something every single day and you miss one day, there's no way you can get back on track because it wasn't every day, right? Whereas if it's a number that you're trying to hit, you can miss as many days as you want to, so long as you end up hitting your number in the end. So it's like looking at work on a project basis versus on an hourly basis. Look at stuff like a project basis if you can. Then spiritual contribution. So what is it that you're going to do for spirituality? So it could be church, it could be some events or volunteering, whatever that is right here. And then lifestyle adventure, go somewhere fun, do something cool, send me a picture personally. I would love that. I'm telling you, seriously, go somewhere fun, send me a selfie of you hiking or seeing something beautiful. You have no idea how psyched I'll be for you. And you know what? Could be visit Robbie on Kauai. Go for it. You are more than welcome to come and hang out here. Personal growth or intellectual. How many books are you going to read this year? How many courses are you going to finish? Like, what is it that you're going to get into? What master classes are you going to join? Family. What are you going to do with your family? Who do you need to see? Who do you need to call on a regular basis as well? Relationships. For me, she's not here. For me, it is, take wife on 12 spontaneous dates. So once a month, a spontaneous date, something that she's not expecting. And that's just a part that I have there. It could be planning something for someone's birthday or anything like that. Relationships could be, some sort of, you could get marriage counseling, anything. There's a ton of things you could do here. Financial investment. So what are you going to invest in? What are you going to get? What assets are you going to get? What training are you going to get on assets, right? And then the people that you hang out with, your environment, your tribe. It could be, I'm going to show up to the weekly calls. I'm going to show up to 5 weekly calls. I'm going to sign up for every month, for the first 3 months of JMP Elite, I'm going to get into that like one-on-one call with a coach from JMP, right? Whatever that is. Then business goals. So this is where you have two businesses. So just to give you an example of what this looks like, a business is any stream of income really that you have, is the way that I like to look at it. So business one for you, for most people, would be your jewelry business. And then the next one is going to be something else that is also a stream of income, but maybe is not this. So for your jewelry business, what are 5 goals that you have for your jewelry business? If once you get to the financial freedom tracker, understand how many sales you need to make. It could be, make 50 sales this year, right? 50, $2,000 plus sales this year, right? And then you can look at your status and say, I'm on track, I'm not on track, I'm done, 50% done, 75% done, whatever it is. Now your business number 2 for you is another thing that's going to be making you money. So for me, right, that's going to be rental properties. That's another stream of income, something else I have to now manage. I have to make sure that I'm doing that. So what is and for you, it could be something else. And I know for many people that go through JMP, they have different things that they use to make money on, or different businesses, or different stores, or different parts of their business, whatever it is. Set goals for those too. And then what do you need help with? So of all of these goals, of all of the personal goals, so really from personal goals down, from any of these personal goals, any of these business goals, what is it that you need the most help with, in terms of figuring out this, or like trying to understand how to do one of these things, whatever it is? What do you need help with? Write that down. And then what's one thing that you want us to hold you accountable for? So when I say us, that could be the people in JMP. It could be any coach that you have. It could be someone that you want to keep you accountable, like a friend that you already have, right? But what is one thing that you want people in your life to keep you accountable for? And it's one of these goals, right? You're going to take one of these goals and just write down the one thing that you really, really care about, or that's really important, that you believe someone else could help you with, and then you want to be held accountable for. Awesome. So that's the longest sheet that we're going to go through. And then we have our habit tracker. So this is where you put in your habits. So it could be yoga, it could be exercise, it could be books read, listened to, additional habits, whatever. Now, this is every single day of the year. So as you go through and you do something, so for me, it was additional habit. For me, it was surfing. I wanted to surf. I wanted to get on 1,000 waves this year for 2022. So, if I surfed on the 5th, which you can do here in Hawaii, on January 5th, you can go surfing, then, that would be one. Now, I would actually, for me, I would put down the amount of waves I got on, because it would be out of 1,000. So I'd say like 8, right? And then let's say I went again a couple days later, I got on 3. A couple days later, I got on like 15. The next day I got on 2 because I was tired from these 15, right? And then it's going to add up here until you actually hit the number that you're looking to hit. So put down your habits up on top, and then use this and use these numbers here to help you to understand where you currently are. And then we have our quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. These are exact replicas. These are exact replicas of the very first one, but on a quarterly basis. The reason for that is you want to be revisiting these things on a quarterly basis, because it's really easy for things to get out of hand and for you to forget where you are. So just go back, revisit them on a quarterly basis. So after you're done with March, you'd go back to quarter 1. After you're done with April, May, June, you would go back to quarter 2. Then July, August, September. After September, you go back through another one. And then after December, quarter 4, you're able to go back as well, revisit everything that you had done before, and say like, okay, am I on track or not on track? And am I getting to where I want to be? Now let's get to monthly expenses. So this is monthly expenses. This is where you go and you basically you put in whatever category. So these are different categories. They're all over here. And so let me just show you. So let's say your monthly expenses, just really easy one for groceries. Let's say Costco. That's where I buy my groceries. How much did I spend in January of 2022? So this is, again, on a monthly basis, and this is for a ton of different things. On a monthly basis, let's say for January 22, you know, my wife and I, we spent I don't know, probably like $780, right, on groceries. Okay. Now it's going to give me a good idea of, you know, where are my expenses going. It's also going to give me an idea of my total, and it's going to tell me what my total is for personal expenses or business expenses too. So this really helps you to see visually what it looks like. So let's say 780. Let's say for you know, housing, let's say rent was in January 2022. I can tell you it was 2,200. So if it's 2,200, now I know that housing took up a pretty big portion of my personal expenses. So what do you want your life to look like, right? And what is it that you want it to be like? And so go through here and then do this on a monthly basis. And this is going to help you to understand, you know, how much does it cost for me to live on every single month? So I know what I need either to cut back on or to in order to hit my financial freedom goals. Then we have our net worth calculator. We've already gone through that. Financial freedom tracker, we're going to go through last. Life happiness index, already did. Last year's highlights is just a longer version of what we had before. So just write down the 25 things that were amazing. Go through your pictures on your phone. Go through Facebook or Instagram. See the things that you loved doing last year. 5 future greatest hits. So we've already kind of talked, or we will be talking about in mental clarity, going through what it looks like to plan your life out and to look at your life as like how to think about your life more successfully. So your 5 future greatest hits are 5 things that you want to say you've accomplished. So like when you're looking back on your life as an old person, just sitting on a porch, I don't know what your dream is, right? On a lake or something like that. And someone's talking to you about like, what are the 5 coolest things you've ever done? This is what you want to say. So you want to write about these things like you have already done them. So celebrate them in the past tense. So, you know, then your greatest hits would be like, I took my whole family, let me see, like to Africa for 3 months, and we traveled all over the continent, trying different foods and, you know, whatever it is, anything like that. What are your 5 future greatest hits for your entire life? Just the coolest things that you could say. You know, I moved, for me, it's something I really want to say is I moved to Japan for 2 years and learned Japanese. I don't know why. I just really love the idea of learning Japanese. I'm actually looking at courses right now where I can go and learn Japanese right now. What are your 5 future greatest hits for your life? And then your bucket list we've already gone through. Now we're going to get into the financial freedom planner / tracker. So this is something that you're going to just make a copy of and then say what month of the year it is. So all you're going to do is put in numbers here, and then everything is going to calculate down here. So let's just go through what these numbers are. So what is your current horizontal income per year? Let's say it's $2,000. So you have $2,000 coming in passively every single year from investments that you've made. Great. Awesome job so far. You're doing pretty well, depending on where you want to get to. What's your current vertical income per year? Let's say that it is currently $80,000. Okay, so $80,000. Awesome. How much have you invested in horizontal income producing assets? So let's say that you've currently, because you already have $2,000 coming in per year. Let's just say that you have $50,000 invested in horizontal income producing assets. Very cool. So that's where you're at this point. Now we're going to get into what your average order profit is. So how much does it cost so this is for your jewelry business, right? What is your average order profit? Let's say it's just $500, right? That's going to really, really change things. But at first we'll say it's $5,000, okay? So we have $5,000 is what we have as our average order profit. That's how much we're charging people on an average basis for our high-end jewelry, and you'll get into why we want to do high-end jewelry in just a second. Now, how much money do you need per year to survive? You've already gone through your monthly expenses. So if you could take your monthly expenses and then multiply that by 12 or get an average, how much would that be? Let's say that you need, on average, let's say you need about, $45,000 per year to survive. Or let's just make it a little bit, let's say it's like 55,000 because you have car expenses and everything too. Sounds good. And then what is your desired horizontal income per year? So remember when I talked to you about getting your big number? So whatever your big number is, well, what is the amount of money that you want to have coming to you passively every single year? So like I said, for most people, it's $80,000. So let's just put $80,000. It's matching your current vertical income, whatever. So if $80,000 is what you want, how long do you want it to be before you reach that? So let's say you want to get there in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, whatever it looks like. Well, let's just look, 8 years down the road. So 8 years. And all you want to do is put numbers in here, nothing else. There we go. So 8. So if that's the case, then if you want to get there in 8 years, you're going to need $2 million. So how much do you have remaining that you need to make? In order to hit your $2 million goal, which is the amount that you need to have invested, you're going to need $1,950,000. So you need to make and invest $1,950,000. Now, how many orders are needed to hit the remainder? So after accounting for money to survive per year spent working, okay? So if you need $50,000 every single, if you need $55,000 every single year for the next 8 years, then, and you're only able to invest then the remaining $25,000, how many orders do you need to hit, or do you need to take in order that you can hit this $1,950,000 in order to hit your $2 million amount of the amount that you need to have invested in horizontal income producing assets? You need to make 478 sales. So 478 sales at an average order value of $5,000 over 8 years, when you have $55,000 worth of living expenses, will get you to $1,950,000 if you were to take the remainder and invest it into horizontal income producing assets, meaning 478 sales will get you to financial freedom. And then average amount of orders needed per month. So 4.9 orders per month. So over the next 8 years, if you get 5 orders or 5 sales every single month, you will hit in 8 years this number, which will be invested in horizontal income producing assets. And that's it. This is meant to break down the big ideas of financial freedom into how many orders or how many sales do I need on a monthly basis? 5. You need 5. If you want to hit 80,000, where is it? Yeah, $80,000 a year in horizontal passive income in 8 years, and this is your average order profit, and this is how much it costs you to live right now, that's how many sales you need. So go through this, fill in your numbers, and get those as accurate as you want them to be. Now, this is to give you an idea. We've already talked about the different asset classes, and there's no guarantee whatsoever that if you do invest in those asset classes, you're going to get the returns that we talked about. There just can't be. That's what investing is. It is inherently, it's risky, which is why you can make money with it. But they are proven asset classes. And so what is your asset class going to be? And that's where right here you put down your asset class of choice. And the reason, I know a lot of people will say you want to diversify, and you certainly can have money in the stock market as well as have real estate investing. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. You could also be a person who buys businesses. That's another asset class. You literally purchase businesses and you revamp them, kind of like a small scale of a corporate raider kind of thing. But whatever asset class you choose, put it down right here, and then So for me, it's real estate. And then what education are you going into? So what books are you currently reading? What, podcasts, what people are you talking to? Who is it that you're talking to that has already done this successfully in the past that's going to help you to get to where you want to be? And that is the financial freedom tracker. So that is the life compass, and just go through this, fill everything out. And honestly, this should do a really, really good job of just waking you up to where you currently are and helping you to get to that next step in your life. Thanks so much for going through this. And I really hope that this has been helpful and that you've learned something. And I'll see you in the next video.